the black Americans have been the only real diehard Americans here, because we're the only ones who carried the process through the process. That everyone else has to sort of like skip stages. We're the ones who marched, we're the ones who carried the Bible, we're the ones who carried the flag, we're the ones who tried to go through the courts. And being born American didn't seem to matter. Because we were born Americans, but we still had to fight for what we were looking for. And we still had to go through those channels and those processes.
I don't really care what you have to say. Facts over fiction is the motto replay. Muhammad Ali came up from the clay. Grassroots built up this USA. Now knowing your history, you'll get played. Equip yourself cause you came to slay any opponent that's up in our way. Look at Malcolm X and...
Did you ever think what it would be like traveling along in an open car without a windshield? Boy, you wouldn't go very far before you got all splattered with mud. And you'd have to keep your eyes closed so as not to be blinded by the dust. Well, when you're traveling along in life, Rangers, common sense acts as a pretty important windshield. It lets you see where you're going. I am the greatest!
Welcome, everyone. I think this is
Happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day. Just checking the audio, make sure we are good, and happy Independence Day. All right.
Same to you and the audience who's joining today.
So it looks like the audio is good, and we are live today. Thank you, Kim, for joining. I always appreciate your presence. You just make things just so much better in this world that we live in today.
Oh, well, appreciate it. And you know, I've been saying I've been kind of hostile on this holiday for the last 4 or 5 years, you know, since 2020 or so, since I've been learning the true history, true American history, but starting to, you know, embrace it as an American, as a foundational Black American, foundational to this country and the red, white, and blue. So I am here for it.
Wonderful. Well, today we're going to be talking about birthright citizenship. We have a couple of videos, a couple of articles that we're going to be going over, and the 14th Amendment, as we do on here in the Mass Media Group. Let's just go over some quick housekeeping and then we will start. All right. If y'all haven't listened to the Oil and Blood, the Color of Wealth in Tulsa, Oklahoma report, please check that out right here on the Mass Media Group. It's actually a telling report, not only on what's happening here in Tulsa, but across the nation. So yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking about reading the wealth report in other states. I think they did like 5 or 6. I think the next one I might read the LA report. What do you think about that, Kim? Should we tackle that one?
Yeah, it's in California, close to home. See what's going on in the wealth gap.
Right. All right. etmediagroupstore.com, etmediagroupstore.com. Go get your merch. Links in the description. Tubi, right now, Reparations.
Reparations Now, the documentary. It's a 3-day weekend on Tubi. Perfect time to watch.
Absolutely. Amazon. Click on that affiliate link. You can go to Amazon and shop and support this channel. Greatly appreciate it in this platform. All right, what else do we have here? Reparations Now, the documentary part 2, The Betrayal. Coming soon to maybe not a theater, but at least to your mobile phones and your screens and so forth. Wish we had that reach, but we do what we need to do on the grassroots media, and we appreciate any support that we get. All right, we also went down to Allensworth, so if you haven't seen any of that footage, please check that out. You can check that right here on Eman the Mass Media Group. That was fun.
Yeah.
Hot, but it was
hot. It was hot. So I was thinking though, the last time we went out to Allensworth when we were filming Reparations Now, the documentary, it was also around Juneteenth. Weren't we heading back from LA Juneteenth? I believe it was around that time.
Yeah.
So it's hot in June.
It sure is. All right. If you haven't had a chance, we'd greatly appreciate it. Your support as well. Doing a little something different here, but you can get the pre-order, the Kindle right now from Mr. Uncomfortable. All right. If you can go to MrUncomfortable.com as well, or sign up to the YouTube right now at the YouTube page. So just type in Mr. Uncomfortable or just click on that QR code. It will take you right there. All right. Let's get into it. Birthright. Independence Day for who? So I think we do this annually. I can't remember if we did it last year, but I know we've been doing this for the past 5 years, I want to say. 4 or 5 years.
You've been doing it. I told you. I've been hostile on this holiday and haven't been participating, but I'm here today.
Well, we appreciate your presence as always, Kim. You always give a different perspective. Let's see here. We're going to run a couple of videos, play a couple of videos. If anybody has any comments in the chat, as always, please keep it clean. Even if you got a star, pound, do what you need to do. Code it up. Yes, because the babies and other young people might be watching, and we want to make sure that we set a good example for the youth. Even though I know sometimes we just want to cuss people out. But yeah, please keep it clean. We don't try to limit people's opinions on here because we definitely believe in the First Amendment. But every once in a while, we got to block people out. So anyway, just keep it clean, family. All right. All right, so let's roll some of these videos and then we'll get to some of these articles and then we will be out so everybody can enjoy their wonderful 4th of July. Some people call it 4th of July, but hey, that's up to you. All right, let's start with the first video, shall we?
Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves.
Yeah.
But
All
right, I was going to play all the videos, but do you want to comment?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, I agree. I subscribe to President Trump's message.
babies of slaves. All right, let's play the next video.
Amendment here, but this will have a nationwide impact. Let's go ahead and bring in our Devin Dwyer, ABC's senior Washington reporter, who's been following the Supreme Court on this. Devin, it's not as straightforward as I think a lot of people were perhaps expecting or hoping to hear. So break down what this actually means.
Well, this was a big surprise, Whit, and this is coming from the youngest conservative justice on the Supreme Court, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, 6-3. As you said, in a big win for Donald Trump, saying he can move forward with that executive order that he issued on day one, changing the definition of citizenship in this country. Practically speaking, it means the president can, in the next 30 days, begin to develop guidelines for how he would implement that. It does not mean, however, Whit, that this executive order is free from future legal challenge. Legal cases in 3 different districts will continue on the merits. The Supreme Court, in oral argument in this matter, did signal that it was skeptical that it could stand up to legal muster. But at this point, the court is really weighing in on the ability of individual judges in districts around the country to block a president's action nationwide. And what Justice Barrett said today is that an individual federal court judge does not have that authority to broadly block a president. The judge, he or she, can block an individual while a case is being litigated, and in this case that was upheld. So, you know, this order as it's implemented cannot apply to those 22 states. It's going to be messy. It cannot apply to those particular pregnant women that are challenging this. But elsewhere in the country, and at the very least in the planning stages, the president can move forward, and that is a significant and surprising win for him.
All right, let's go to the next clip.
A wave of disappointment. One of President Donald Trump's most loyal voting blocs, Cuban and Venezuelan immigrants. Now speaking out in Miami, a Republican stronghold, as the recent wave of deportations hits home and the Trump administration moved to end temporary legal status, or TPS, for more than 500,000 people who arrived during the Biden administration. Here in Florida, Trump won almost 70% of the Cuban American vote in 2024, along with 61% of Doral, home to the largest Venezuelan American population in the U.S.
They used us.
Adelis Ferro is the co-founder and executive director of the Venezuelan American Caucus.
How is the Venezuelan community feeling right now, especially in the context of these deportations?
Desperate, terrified. There are people with mental health issues. There are people with panic attacks, anxiety attacks. They'd rather to die than go back to Venezuela, and then
people
have
are
to
talking
stop.
about taking their lives.
I have those messages.
Because the situation
because
here
of the situation. They'd rather
so
to
bad with
take their own
deportation.
lives, yes, than go back to Venezuela.
Still, experts say the current turmoil may not hurt the Republican Party.
All this stuff done in the first 200 days of the administration. They have a long road ahead before the midterms.
Do you think that Trump will pay a political price?
I'm not sure that Trump or the Republican Party as an institution is going to suffer a great deal unless the Democrats can muster an opposition that is a compelling vision as to how things could be done differently.
Morgan Radford.
Can Trump deport Black American citizens? The answer is no, not lawfully, because we're citizens. But if you ask whether he can unlawfully deport Black Americans, the answer is yes, because the Supreme Court just took away lower courts' ability to stop him. And if you don't believe me, let me show you how this became real after the Trump v. Casa birthright citizenship case. So in Trump v. Casa, the Supreme Court ruled that federal judges cannot issue nationwide injunctions or universal injunctions against Trump executive orders except with class action lawsuits. And those can take a while to be certified, those class action lawsuits. That means even if Trump signs an unconstitutional, unlawful executive order, judges can only protect the people who are named in the lawsuit or members of the certified class action lawsuit. Everyone else, they're vulnerable. even if what Trump does is blatantly unconstitutional or illegal. So, can Trump deport Black American citizens lawfully? No. But that's not the question anymore, because he doesn't need to act lawfully if there are no judges that can stop him. In fact, Justice Jackson warned, she said in her dissent, quote, "The executive can now deny people rights that the founders plainly wrote into our Constitution, so long as those individuals have not found a lawyer."
With a kid on the way in. Yeah. And I'll be dancing out in California. The kid who got it all wrong.
Shout out to Drewski. Sorry, I had to. There was something in there a little different, because oftentimes we talk about some definitely.
A little levity, huh?
Yeah, definitely a little levity, because we talk about some serious stuff on this platform a lot, so I wanted to bring some levity as a little comedic relief on here. So shout out to Drewski. But do we want to talk about the clips that we saw, or should we start reading some of these articles?
I mean, what is there to say? Yeah, let's read through the article. I mean, which video do you want to talk about? Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, okay, I'm just gonna play this clip real quick again and ask the question, can Black Americans be deported? So let's play this clip one more time.
Can Trump deport Black American citizens? The answer is no, not lawfully, because we're citizens. But if you ask whether he can unlawfully deport Black Americans, the answer is yes, because the Supreme Court just took away lower courts' ability to stop him. And if you don't believe me, let me show you how this became real after the Trump v. Casa birthright citizenship case. So in Trump v. Casa, the Supreme Court ruled that federal judges cannot issue nationwide injunctions or universal injunctions against Trump executive orders except with class action lawsuits. And those can take a while to be certified, those class action lawsuits. That means even if Trump signs an unconstitutional, unlawful executive order, judges can only protect the people who are named in the lawsuit or members of the certified class action lawsuit. Everyone else, they're vulnerable. Even if what Trump does is blatantly unconstitutional or illegal. So, can Trump deport Black American citizens lawfully? No. But that's not the question anymore, because he doesn't need to act lawfully if there are no judges that can stop him. In fact, Justice Jackson warned, she said in her dissent, quote, "The executive can now deny people rights that the founders plainly wrote into our Constitution, so long as those individuals have not found a lawyer."
I mean,
All right.
so he answered his own question in the first sentence. Can Trump deport Black Americans? The answer is no.
But he continued to keep explaining that's not the question.
Well, why would Trump
Hilarious.
do that? And in the earlier clip, we saw that he said that the 14th Amendment was written for the babies of slaves. So, why would he deport the babies of slaves that the 14th Amendment is written for? So he's already pretty much given cover on that.
Exactly. So,
yeah,
let's go into some of these articles. Yeah, so family, we need to stop with these scare tactics, and we need to remain focused on what we need to do as American citizens. All right,
Yeah.
focus on you and your family, and you know that's what we need to do right now, because I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now with the budget bill that passed and so forth, and life's gonna happen. So let's see here. Actually, I wanted to read the executive order.
Okay, let's see what it says.
All right, so this executive order is 14160. Hope everyone can hear me. I'm just going to hit my audio real quick, family, just to make sure that we are good. Hope everyone can hear. All right, we are golden. I think this is only 2 pages, I think, something like that. Yep. All right, here we go. Protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. The privilege of United States citizenship is a priceless and profound gift. The 14th Amendment states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That provision rightly repudiated the Supreme Court of the United States' shameful decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford, 60 U.S., which we'll be reading a little bit later on today, which misinterpreted the Constitution as permanently excluding people of African descent from eligibility for United States citizenship solely based on their race. But the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenships persons who were born in the United States but not, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, end quote. Consistent with the understanding, the Congress has further specified through legislation that a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a national and citizen of the United States at birth, generally mirroring the 14th Amendment's text. Among the categories of individuals born in the United States and not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, the privilege of United States citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States. One, okay, this is very important here. One, when that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. Or 2, when that person's mother's presence in the United States at the time of said person's birth was lawful but temporary, such as but not limited to visiting the United States under the auspices of the visa waiver program or visiting on a student, work, or tourist visa, and the father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. Section 2, Policy A. It is the policy of the United States that no department or agency of the United States government shall issue documents recognizing United States citizenship or accept documents issued by state, local, or other governments or authorities purporting to recognize United States citizenship to persons. 1, when that person's mother was unlawfully present in the United States and the person's father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. Or 2, when that person's mother's presence in the United States was lawful but temporary, and the person's father was not a United States citizen or lawful permanent resident at the time of said person's birth. B. Subsection A of this section shall apply only to persons who are born within the United States after 30 days from the date of this order. Nothing in this order shall be construed to affect the entitlement of other individuals, including children of lawful permanent residents, to obtain documentation of the United States citizenship. Enforcement. A. Secretary of the State, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Commissioner of Social Security shall take all appropriate measures to ensure that the regulations and policies of their respective departments and agencies are consistent with this order and that no officers, employees, or agents of the respective departments and agencies act or forbear from acting in any manner inconsistent with this order. B, the heads of all executive departments and agencies shall issue public guidance within 30 days of the date of this order regarding this order's implementation with respect to their operations and activities. Section 4, definitions as used in this order. A, mother means the immediate female biological progenitor. B, father means the immediate male biological progenitor. Section 5, general provisions. A, nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or the functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit substantive, or procedural, enforceably at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. The White House, January 20th, 2025. Alrighty. So let's actually go into the Dred Scott case, since it was mentioned. I'm gonna share this screen here. Let me, I guess, blow it up a tad bit. Tatty tad. All right. Dred Scott. Kim, can you see it? Is it large enough?
Yes.
It's large. Okay, cool. Here we go. Let's see, we're on the time here. Okay, we're almost at the half an hour mark. All right. Don't forget to please like, share, and subscribe to your number one source of news and reparations in the mass media group. All right, here we go. Dred Scott versus Sanford. Dred Scott versus Sanford, 60 U.S., was a landmark decision of the United States Supreme Court that held the U.S. Constitution did not extend American citizenship to people of Black African descent, and therefore they could not enjoy the rights and privileges the Constitution conferred upon American citizens. The decision is widely considered the worst in the Supreme Court's history. Being widely denounced for its overt racism, which, by the way, there is a lot of covert racism going on these days. Anyway, Freudian slip. Overt racism
going on these days.
That too.
Continue.
Overt and covert racism, judicial activism, and poor legal reasoning. It de facto nationalized slavery and thus played a crucial role in the events that led to the American Civil War 4 years later. Legal scholar Bernard Schwartz said that it stands first in any list of the worst Supreme Court decisions. A future Chief Justice, Charles Evans Hughes, called it the court's greatest self-inflicted wound. The decision involved the case of Dred Scott, an enslaved Black man whose owners had taken him from Missouri, a slave-holding state, into Illinois in the Wisconsin Territory, where slavery was illegal. When his owners later brought him back to Missouri, Scott sued for his freedom and claimed that because he had been taken into, quote, free, end quote, U.S. territory, he had automatically been freed and was legally no longer a slave. Scott sued first in Missouri State Court, which ruled that he was still a slave under its law. Which, by the way, for those that don't know, California had, I believe, is the Fugitive Slave Act in 1852, where basically if you came to California, there was a possibility that you can be enslaved if you were enslaved in another state and you came into California, right? So that's just something for those who didn't know. But I know people who follow us probably already knew that. But for those that don't know, look up the 1852 California Fugitive Slave Act here. All right, let's continue. He then sued in U.S. federal court, which ruled against him by deciding that it had to apply Missouri law to the case. He then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. In March 1857, the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 decision against Scott in an opinion written by Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, which we're going to be getting into him a little bit later. The court ruled that people of African descent are not included and were not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, and can therefore claim none of the rights and privileges which that instrument provides for and secures to citizens of the United States. More specifically, that African Americans were not entitled to full liberty of speech, to hold public meetings, and to keep and carry arms, along with other constitutionally protected rights and privileges. Taney supported his ruling with an extended survey of American state and local laws from the time of the Constitution's drafting in 1787 that purported to show that a perpetual and impassable barrier was intended to be erected between the white race and the one which they had reduced to slavery. Because the court ruled that Scott was not an American citizen, he was also not a citizen of any state, and accordingly could never establish the diversity of citizenship that Article 3 of the United States Constitution requires for a U.S. federal court to be able to exercise jurisdiction over a case. After ruling on those issues surrounding Scott, Taney struck down the Missouri Compromise, because by prohibiting slavery in U.S. territories north of the 30-degree parallel, it interfered with slave owners' property rights under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Although Taney and several other judges hoped the decision would settle the slavery controversy, which was increasingly dividing the American public, the decision only exacerbated interstate tension. Taney's majority opinion suited the slaveholding states, but it was intensely decried in all of the other states. The decision inflamed the national debate over slavery and deepened the divide that led ultimately to the American Civil War. In 1865, after the Union's victory, the court's ruling in Dred Scott was superseded by the passage of the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which abolished slavery. Kinda. And the Fourth Amendment, whose first section guaranteed citizenship for, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, quote. All right. Historians agree that the court decision was a major disaster for the nation as it dramatically inflamed tensions leading to the Civil War. The ruling is widely considered a blatant act of judicial activism with the intent of bringing finality to the territorial crisis resulting from the Louisiana Purchase by creating a constitutional right to own slaves anywhere in the country while permanently disenfranchising all people of African descent. The court's decision to overturn the Missouri Compromise, which had already been replaced with the Kansas-Nebraska Act and thus was a legally moot issue, is cited as proof of this because the latter act was determined by the due process of popular sovereignty and thus could not be overturned the same way as the Missouri Compromise. During the United States election of 1860, Republicans rejected the ruling as being corrupted by partisanship and non-binding because the court had no jurisdiction. Their presidential nominee, Abraham Lincoln, stated he would not permit slavery anywhere in the country except where it already existed. which directly contradicted the court's ruling. His election is considered the final event that led the Southern states to secede from the Union, igniting the American Civil War. Okay. I think I'm going to stop there because it goes about 18 pages. Goes into the Dred Scott. Let's see. Irene Sanford Emerson. Maybe we'll read this. Let me go back to the other slide here real quick. And then maybe we'll get back into Dred Scott. Because I think I have, let me see if I have. All right. Well, let's take a look at Roger B. Taney. Where am I? Okay. All right. Just a little brief history about this guy. Roger Brooke.
He's the
judge.
ruling judge, right? Yeah.
Yeah. In the Dred Scott case. Roger B. Taney, March 17th, 1777, October 12th, 1864, was an American lawyer and politician who served as the 5th Chief Justice of the United States, holding that office from 1836 until his death in 1864. Taney delivered the majority opinion in Dred Scott versus Sandford, 1857, ruling that African Americans could not be considered U.S. citizens and that Congress could not prohibit slavery in the U.S. territories. Prior to joining the U.S. Supreme Court, Taney served as the U.S. Attorney General and U.S. Secretary of the Treasury under President Andrew Jackson. He was the first Catholic to serve on the Supreme Court. Taney was born into a wealthy slave-owning family in Calvert County, Maryland. He won election to the Maryland House of Delegates as a member of the Federalist Party, but later broke with the party over the War of 1812. After switching to the Democratic Republican Party, Taney was elected to the Maryland Senate in 1816. He emerged as one of the most prominent attorneys in the state and was appointed as Attorney General of Maryland in 1827. Taney supported Andrew Jackson's presidential campaigns in 1824 and 1828, and he became a member of Jackson's Democratic Party. After a cabinet shakeup in 1831, President Jackson appointed Taney as his Attorney General. Taney became one of the most important members of Jackson's cabinet and played a major role in the Bank War. Beginning in 1833, Taney served as a Secretary of the Treasury under a recess appointment, but his nomination to that position was rejected by the United States Senate. In 1835, after Democrats took control of the Senate, Jackson appointed Taney to succeed the late John Marshall on the Supreme Court as Chief Justice. Taney presided over a jurisprudential shift towards, toward states' rights. But the Taney Court did not reject federal authority to the degree that many of Taney's critics had feared. By the early 1850s, he was widely respected, and some elected officials looked to the Supreme Court to settle the national debate over slavery. Despite emancipating his own slaves and giving pensions to those who were too old to work, Taney was outraged by Northern attacks on the institution and sought to use his Dred Scott decision to permanently end the slavery debate. His broad ruling deeply angered many Northerners and strengthened the anti-slavery Republican Party. Its nominee, Abraham Lincoln, won the 1860 presidential election there. After Lincoln's election, Taney sympathized with the seceding Southern states and blamed Lincoln for the war, but he did not resign from the Supreme Court. He strongly disagreed with President Lincoln's broader interpretation of executive power in the American Civil War. In Ex parte Merriman, Taney held that the president could not suspend the right of habeas corpus. Lincoln retaliated to the ruling by invoking non-acquiescence. Taney later tried to hold George Cadwalader, one of Lincoln's generals, in contempt of court, and the Lincoln administration again invoked non-acquiescence. In response, in 1863, Lincoln delivered the Emancipation Proclamation, notwithstanding Taney's ruling on slavery. Taney finally relented, saying, "I have exercised all the power which the Constitution and laws confer on me, but that power has been resisted by a force too strong for me to overcome." Taney died in 1864, and Lincoln appointed Salmon P. Chase as his successor. At the time of Taney's death in 1864, he was widely reviled in the North, or reviled, not revealed, reviled in the North, and Lincoln declined to make a public statement in response to his death. He continues to have a controversial historical reputation, and his Dred Scott ruling is widely considered to be the worst Supreme Court decision ever made.
Wow.
That is a wow, isn't it? I'm trying to find here. Let me see. I'm trying to find this. Let's see. No, Dred Scott Sanford. Is it? Let me see if this is it. Okay. All right. I think this is it. All right. Let me see if my audio is good, because it goes in a little bit more into, I think Sanford, who this Sanford person is.
Did you put those highlights there? Is that what you're reading?
Actually, I didn't. But I don't know how it got. I just captured it and it was like, this is it. Let me just make sure the audio is good, fam. Sure, everybody is listening. We are good. All right, yeah, audio is good. All right. So, have you learned anything today, Kim, at all?
Yeah, Taney was a racist, slave-owning racist that tried to keep slavery in place in perpetuity.
Simple and plain. Mother F him and John Wayne. Shout out to PE. Public Enemy. All right, yes. I did not know that until I read that about Taney. Always learn something.
It was nice that I guess he emancipated his own slaves and gave them pensions.
The whole irony though, like, right? So you would do that for your own, personal, but then when it comes to the country, you'd be like, nah.
For me, but not for thee.
The irony. All right, so we read about the Dred Scott and Sanford. Let's see, what does it say? The controversy. All right, hopefully everybody can see that. Hopefully I blew it up enough. All right. Let me blow it up a tad bit more. Okay. All right. All right, here we go. The controversy began in 1833 when Dr. John Emerson, a surgeon with the United States Army, purchased Dred Scott, a slave, and eventually moved Scott to a base in the Wisconsin Territory. Slavery was banned in the territory pursuant to the Missouri Compromise. Scott lived there for the next 4 years, hiring himself out for work during the long stretches when Emerson was away. In 1840, Scott, his new wife, and their young children moved to Louisiana and then to St. Louis with Emerson. Emerson died in 1843, leaving the Scott family to his wife, Eliza Irene Sanford, Sanford. In sought to buy their freedom from Sanford, but she refused. Dred Scott then sued Sanford in a state court, arguing that he was legally free because he and his family had lived in a territory where slavery was banned. In 1850, the state court finally declared Scott free. However, Scott's wages had been withheld pending the resolution of his case. And during that time, Mrs. Emerson remarried and left her brother, John Sanford, to deal with her affairs. Mr. Sanford, unwilling to pay the back wages owed to Scott, appealed the decision to the Missouri Supreme Court. The court overturned the lower court's decision and ruled in favor of Sanford. Wow. Scott then filed another lawsuit in a federal circuit court claiming damages against Sanford's brother, John F.A. Sanford, for Sanford's alleged physical abuse against him. The jury ruled that Scott could not sue in federal court because he had already been deemed a slave under Missouri law. Scott appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, which reviewed the case in 1856. Due to a clerical error at the time, Sanford's name was misspelled in court. So I think
that mean?
I think they're just saying it was just misspelled.
I mean, what implications did that have?
I don't know. I don't think it had any. I think it's just saying that instead of SANFORD, the D was added in between the N and the F. So Sandford instead of Sanford.
Okay.
All right. So this goes on. The Supreme Court in an infamous opinion written by Okay, we already talked about that. Second court. Yeah, the second court argued that Scott's status was a citizen as a free state did not necessarily give him the status. Okay, got that. Decision addressed Scott versus Sanford exacerbated resisting sexual tensions between us. Okay, got that. All right, that was written by Alex McBride. All right, third-year law student at Tulane Law School in New Orleans. Ain't you got family down there, or do you still have family or roots down there?
Louisiana, not New Orleans, Shreveport.
Louisiana, yes. Thanks for that clarification. All right, that's not too far from New Orleans, is it? About a 10-hour drive?
Okay. So it seems pretty cut and dry when you read through all this Dred Scott decision and read the 14th Amendment, that birthright citizenship was meant for emancipated slaves and their babies.
Yep. All right, we've got a few more articles and then we're going to try to get out on the hour. So got another 10 minutes or so. Okay, so here's an article. It's real quick. It says, looks like some people are going to be protesting today. No flags or fireworks. What nationwide July 4th protests mean for California. The group that orchestrated the No Kings demonstrations is joining with other activist groups in mobilizing across the nation. A wave of protests against President Donald Trump's administration is set to boycott the traditional parades and fireworks that celebrate America's independence this week. All right. The group Indivisible, the grassroots organization that orchestrated the No Kings demonstration on June 14th, is joining with other activist groups like Women's March to make July 4th a day of defiant messaging aimed at the current government. The No Kings events brought out an estimated more than 5 million people on the president's birthday, which also coincided with a massive military parade to celebrate 250 years of the U.S. Army and Flag Day. The People's Union USA, the same group responsible for organizing protests of major retailers like Target and McDonald's, is calling their event the most important boycott of the year. All right.
We ain't gonna stop
like some
nothing.
People are exercising their right.
It ain't gonna stop nothing. They've been turning up in California with these fireworks all week, driving my dog crazy.
Yeah. Did you hear about that blast that happened in Yolo County?
No.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Maybe hopefully they're okay, but I doubt it. So there was a
what happened?
Yeah, there is I guess somewhere in Yolo County. I don't know exactly what city it's in, but that's where they house fireworks at this huge warehouse, and it just straight blew up.
Oh my goodness.
And so far there's, I believe, 6 or 7 individuals who worked for the company that are missing.
Oh my goodness.
And on top of that, I guess because of that explosion, I think there was like quite a few fireworks shows that had to suspend their event.
Really?
Yeah, or move it. I think one had to move. I can't remember which one, but yeah, there was quite a few up here in Northern California, at least 6 or 7 that had to suspend their event work. So
I
it
hope
was
that
crazy.
act wasn't an act of domestic terrorism to prove some point.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, regardless, that I hope everybody's okay, and I mean, dang, family, be careful. You know what I mean? I think this company's been around for a while, so I don't know why their safety protocols weren't met in this particular case, but
Right. That's why I said I'm
crazy.
suspicious of everything. Now they're having this no uh, uh, protest, no fireworks protest, and then one of the biggest facility goes up in flames. Yeah, I've got to
Yeah.
side eye that.
You got a side eye, huh? All right, so I wanted to read this from Robert Rivas. He's a speaker of the Assembly out here in California.
Oh, where's the boo button?
I know, right? You got the boo. Wait, where's the boo? I know we got the boo around here somewhere, don't we? Oh, here we
Robert
go.
Rivas. Yes.
Yep, Robert Rivas. Okay, so Speaker Rivas had a statement on passage of Trump and Republicans' devastating bill and agenda, which we aren't going to be reading that today because that bill, I think, is like 900 pages or something crazy. Might do a analysis on it at a later time, but I think we want to enjoy our 4th and not be all day online. Anyway, Donald Trump and Republicans have jammed through a bill designed to devastate California's economy and hurt working people across America. So many families rely on Medi-Cal, but the GOP doesn't care about helping people who need it most. Republicans who voted for the travesty should start packing up their offices now, because they will be voted out once Americans discover they can't see a doctor or put food on the table, so that the richest get a tax break. For your man's Robert Rivas.
Well, as I recall, it was the Democrats that made our Medi-Cal system insolvent out here by adding illegal immigrants to the dole.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point they were even going to give undocumented, people, carte blanche on the benefits out here.
Right. Which was impactful to, Americans out here in California. So people in glass houses really shouldn't be throwing stones.
Yep. All right, so let's just read the 4th Amendment and then
14th.
Did I say 4th?
Yeah.
I did say 4th. Thank you, Kim. See, when I'm doing this on my own by myself, I know I just be talking. Sometimes I don't even go back to see it. So, yes, I meant 14. Thanks.
Yes, let's read our amendment for the babies of slaves.
All right. 14th Amendment, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. All right. So that is the 14th Amendment. And I mean, I don't know, it might get a little sticky, but I think what the Trump administration is trying to do is just to make sure that the people that should be in this country should be in this country. And I know, we all have our own opinions about Donald Trump and, some of the ways that he is running this country aren't necessarily the greatest, but in this particular case, I don't know. I think he's just trying to make sure that people who should be here lawfully or are here lawfully should maintain that type of constitutionality here in the United States as such, without flooding the zone. All right.
I mean, right. We're dealing with an illegal invasion. We got to put it into it. So, and get back to the original intent of the 14th Amendment. So let's see what it says. You want me to pick up?
I mean, it just goes really into the Dred Scott, but if you want to just reiterate, yeah, you can. And
the citizenship provisions of the 14th Amendment may be seen as repudiation of one of the more politically divisive cases of the 19th century. Under common law, free persons born within the state or nation were citizens thereof. In the Dred Scott case, however, Chief Justice Roger Taney, writing for the court, ruled that this rule did not apply to freed slaves. The court held the United States citizenship was enjoyed by only two classes of people: white persons born in the United States as descendants of persons who were at the time of the adoption of the Constitution recognized as citizens in the several states, and who became also citizens of this new political body, the United States of America. And two, those who having been born outside the dominions of the United States had migrated thereto and been naturalized therein. Freed slaves fell into neither of these categories. The court further held that although the state could confer state citizenship upon whomever it chose, it could not make the recipient of such status a citizen of the United States. Even a free man descended from a former slave residing as a free man in the United States at the date of ratification of the Constitution was held ineligible for citizenship. Congress subsequently repudiated this concept of citizenship, first in Section 1 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, and then in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. In doing so, Congress set aside the Dred Scott holding that restored the traditional precepts of citizenship by birth. Yes.
All right. Yes.
Okay, so for me, since we're getting out of here to go enjoy our Independence Day, I mean, it says it in the first sentence here: all persons born or naturalized in the United States. Why would they need to put in that naturalization line and cause if, what other people are arguing is that anybody born on American soil is an American citizenship? Then why even include this line on naturalization?
Right. And something that also in the executive order, that was mentioned about, the parents actually not being citizens, right? That's something else to mention because, people come over, the woman might be pregnant.
They're talking about all persons born, so that's people who are already here and being born to parents that are citizenship. And then you have the naturalized people who become citizenships through that naturalization. So,
right, through the legal process, right?
correct. So it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, you just can't come over here, drop a baby, and they be citizenships. That is, misrepresentation of this amendment.
Babies of slaves. All right,
Right.
let's read some of these comments, shall we? I'd like to give a shout out to our good sister, the one and only Tiffany Quarles. Shout out. Thank you, Tiffany, for providing this wonderful image up here. Happy 4th of July in the United States of America. As you can see, depending on what screen you're seeing, on your right or left is the Juneteenth flag, and on your right or left is the United States flag. So
All
we'll
of
be
our
reading.
flags represented. Don't forget the Black American flag down there at the left.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I was looking at the top. Thank you.
All our flags represented.
Representing. What up? Mrs. Crumity in the building. Good morning to you too, ma'am. Reggie Romaine. Grand Rising. Shout out. What's up? Mike. Black Magic Mike in the building. Good afternoon from the good place. Tulsa.
Hey, Black Magic Mike.
All right.
So, what in your opinion are the possible outcomes of this birthright citizenship arguments being made?
Possible outcomes? I mean, it's going to get sticky because, I mean, you're looking at,
Why?
interpretation. Well, because you're looking at it as a federal level. So they're starting to do stuff on the federal level, but then you're looking at the lower courts, right? Still having the power.
Isn't that what this whole
Well,
thing
that's
is
what the
about,
Supreme
though?
Court, right?
The
But
lower,
there's still.
right. The
No,
lower
I'm not.
courts
I'm just
have no
not.
more
I'm not saying.
jurisdiction over this matter.
Right, but they're still fighting it. That's what I'm saying. So that I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what's happening right now.
In reading through it, it said that people who already have their lawsuits in place, they're going to go through the due process on that. I saw this one comment about what the defiant lawyer was saying about Black Americans are going to be deported. And someone mentioned, well, should we get our class action lawsuit together now? And I'm like, I don't think that's necessary. Because according to what we read earlier, if you have a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit in place, then you have to go through the due process. But like I said, I'm not even worried about it. I don't, just really unbothered.
All right. I mean, 5 months in, and the last 4 years never happened.
What's that mean?
I have no idea. Putting stuff
Trump
up.
supporters are practicing sadism.
All right. When you're enjoying your hot dog today, please reflect on the fact that Jesus never ate a hot dog. Okay. We're just going through these. All right. That image says it all. All right. Okay, YouTube, Black Magic, you have a wonderful weekend and enjoy yourself, everyone.
Stay safe out there, family.
This is Miss Lady 309. Thank you for joining, and everyone for joining on the live or on the replay. Please like, share, and subscribe. That's about it. Just be safe out there on this Independence Day. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fireworks, jumping off out there. And yeah, we are on the hour. And that is the show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. What are we going to go out with? What are we going to go out with? Is that a saying? With? Yeah, let's go out with this, Kim. Let's go out with this. Let's go out on the... Which, by the way, we haven't put out the reparations officially. Reparations Now, Part 2, the Betrayal documentary trailer yet. So I think we need to do this. We should. Yeah, I was gonna put out in Juneteenth. I don't know why we didn't. Maybe we'll put it out next week. But anyway, we'll run the trailer right now before we get out of here.
All right. Well, happy Independence Day, and enjoy your undeportable status, Black American family, and just don't get yourself too worked up about all of the rhetoric that's going on right now.
Absolutely. Speaking of rhetoric, you're going to see a lot in this next clip, especially with a good brother. I always forget his name, but maybe I want to forget his name. Isaac Bryan.
Yeah.
Assemblymember Isaac Bryan.
Not just rhetoric, you're going to see straight lies. So don't
straight
be surprised.
Lies. Do not be surprised. All right, family. Everyone, take care of yourselves. And as always, peace, reparations, and lineage-based reparations.
Please move item 7172 to the inactive file.
I just want to know, what did you know about bills not being brought to the floor? There were two critical reparations bills, Senate Bill 1403 and Senate Bill 13.
Forgive me, because there's over 1,000. I'm not very good at the numeric, but
it's gonna. The analysis said it's only a couple $1 million to stand it up.
Peanuts.
And his response was, "We want to do it in a different way. We don't want to do it through creating a whole new bureau. We want to do it through the UC system."
So this is Assemblyman Mr. Bryan. He's mad I brought up the reparations vote. So he's preventing me from speaking. And he's trying to block my access to it.
Madam Speaker, I ask that we take up file item 71, SB 1331.
If you decide to start your family tree even without the DNA, 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're going to find your family.
A great number of African Americans can trace their lineage to the period of enslavement.
Lamert was developed by Walter H. Lamert, and in his designing this area, he actually had covenants to where they would not sell to black people.
I supported the bill all session.
Then bring the bill.
Will you vote?
CLBC, can you give them a grade 1 to 10?
This current crop, as of now, it's a negative.
Vote for the bill, Mr.
Bring the bill.
Will you vote for the bill?
Bring it up.
Will you vote for reparations?
Bring it
I
up.
would love it.
Bring it up.
Let's vote for reparations
Bring
together.
It's a spirit of anti-blackness, and we must call it out. And so I'm going to call out on August 31st, 2024, that the California Legislative Black Caucus, the majority of them, and the governor allowed the enemy to use them to try to keep us down and keep us as bottom-class citizens.
Just think that all the other members have at least about 10 years left. So we're not going anywhere.
I've heard it's slightly changed, and some of the advocates who were part of the coalition last go around are now expressing concerns of whether or not they'll still be able to stand behind it if those changes are not corrected.
In so many years, it will hardly be no black folks left in California. We love y'all, we thank y'all, and we demanding reparations right now.
First of all, America, from the evidence that they gave us, you're guilty.
What happened on August 31st, 2024 was a betrayal.
We know that if we don't have our hand in this process as much as we possibly can, it can be corrupted from the outside. So in terms of our role isn't done until they're issuing the checks for our reparations.
The time for reparations is now.
Yeah. Right now. What do we want?